What's up, Buttercup? Welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. This is an extreme horror novel. This is going to be a difficult book review. I'm going to have to be careful in my wording because this is extremely delicate. It can be extremely triggering because this is based on a real life event. Things have changed from the real event to Jack's story, but there are many, unfortunately many things that are the same or very similar. I'm not going to talk about the perpetrators in depth, the real life perpetrators. They don't deserve jack shit. I am glad that many of them have died. I don't care. This is not a happy-go-lucky book. This is a book that is extremely violent. So this is not safe for work, just like I said in my title. Do not listen to this in public. Do not listen to this review in or around basically anyone, especially children. Put your headphones on or listen to this review, even though it's not going to go in depth, but even then it's like, it's not great, y'all, okay? Just don't be around people. I'm going to warn you that we're going to talk about all different types of violence. If you are interested in the real life story, then I will link 2 videos down below that I thought were the best representation and also what I was feeling when I learned about this case. I actually learned about this case many years ago from Bailey Sarian, and one of the videos is Bailey. Throughout that video, she's pissed. I'm pissed, and then the other video that I'm going to link down, he's pissed. We are all pissed. We're all on the same page. This is a very uncomfortable book, though I gave it 5 stars. The writing is straightforward, simple, to the point. And in this copy, there was a point in the back where Jack Ketchum is being interviewed, and Jack said that there were comments made that the writing was too simple and not pretty enough. And are y'all okay? This is in Lolita. Calm down. Everyone calm down. So I think the writing is superb for the story and the topics that are in hand. If Jack wrote this all pretty like, I would be upset at him. But he wrote it in a very straightforward and honest way. Now, I'm going to read the back of the book summary. It's extremely short. It's like 2 sentences. I can understand why they chose to do that, but maybe a little bit more, because this can actually be very traumatizing for people that have gone through child trauma. I myself have PTSD from childhood trauma. However, I spent many years in therapy, specifically trauma therapy. I am recovered and subclinical. This really pissed me off. I was uncomfortable. I cried at the end, but I wasn't triggered into a panic attack or anything like that. But for people that are not on my recovery healing journey, it could definitely trigger you. Please be wary of that. The simple summary is: a teenage girl is held captive and brutally tortured by neighborhood children. Based on a true story, this shocking novel reveals the depravity of which we are all capable. I'm going to just give a little info on the characters involved. The first one that's the most important is David. He's 12 years old and we're following him in first person point of view. Ruth, the crazy bitch, is the mom to 3 boys and the abuser. Meg is a young woman who stays with Ruth because her parents die in a car crash with her sister, and Meg takes the brunt of the torture. Susan is Meg's younger sister who's injured and still recovering from the car accident. She can barely walk. She does take abuse as well, but it is not to the level as Meg. And then we have Denise and Eddie, who are neighborhood kids who are batshit crazy. And then the 3 children of Ruth, I don't care to say their names. I even am not going to refer to Ruth by her name. She is now crazy bitch. She doesn't deserve that attention. Just like the real life perpetrators do not deserve their names to be spoken. And I'll refer to Denise and Eddie as batshit crazy neighborhood children. How about that? The only ones that I'm going to be using their names would be David, Meg, and Susan. This has multiple parts. Each part gets worse and worse, of course, as the abuse begins and finalizes at the end of the novel. And then we also have an epilogue. And it is less than 300 pages, or about 300 pages. That's not also including the interview with Jack Ketchum. We're not going to include that. The story itself is under 300 pages, and it's extremely poignant, uncomfortable, scary, terrifying, fucked up. That's how we're going to just curse here today, because cursing is nothing compared to the actual story and also the real life events. Going into just a brief summary, David is friends with many of the neighborhood children, namely the crazy bitch's 3 sons that live right next door. And he meets Meg and Susan, and he is just really excited to have more friends. But the crazy bitch just snaps. And over the course of a few parts, you can see her snapping slowly, and then it just goes. And that's when the torture, yes, it is torture, begins against Meg. And David, who, let's remember, is still 12 years old, and his family is not that stable. He is seeing many of the abuses happening. Within this copy, I don't know about others, the interview section, Jack Ketchum talks about how people are more pissed off at David than they are at the crazy bitch because he doesn't do anything. I understand that sentiment, I really do. However, let's remember that he is 12 years old. He has been groomed by the crazy bitch. There are many, many points throughout the novel, not just in the beginning, but throughout the novel, where we see that the crazy bitch is grooming these children, namely the male children, but also the batshit crazy Denise is also being groomed. And I say that because she does stuff to Meg, and yes, okay. Now, David watches. There is a point where or many points, where they try and push him into torturing Meg, but he doesn't. He gets close, and he talks to her and stuff, and he's like, oh no, I'm not doing that. But he is in the background while the batshit crazy children and the crazy bitch are present, and they don't let him leave. As the torture and the abuse is happening, when it's over, they let him leave. And then he keeps going back. And this is something that is upsetting to a lot of people. I totally understand. I totally get it. You need to remember, though, he is 12 and he has been groomed by the crazy bitch. There is also a lot of sexual issues going on, and his mom and dad are together, but his dad is continually cheating on the mom, and he has hit her multiple times. So the mom is very disassociating from life. She is not present, and the dad is not present. And this is how the crazy bitch takes hold of David, or just any child. This perpetrator is seeking out children that do not have a stable environment. that are not mentally or emotionally stable themselves, because they're going to worm their way into that child's life slowly but surely, and then they're going to use that grooming to just take hold of them by the throat and say, you should trust me because XYZ. Then to the point where it stops working, you need to trust me and not say a word, or else I'm going to kill you and everyone that you love. So you need to stay, or you need to keep quiet, or you need to keep doing this because you see what's happening here. I'm going to do it to you, and I'm going to do it to everyone that you love. That's exactly what the crazy bitch does. And I think a lot of people are forgetting, or maybe they just don't know, that the crazy bitch's family, this is how generational trauma and generational dysfunction and violence happens. Were those 3 sons like that when they were born? I don't think so. I mean, possibly, but I'm gonna say no. But with crazy bitch involved, where she allows this stuff, she lets it happen, she involves herself with glee. You see these younger children growing up with that type of mother who is grooming them in all the ways you can think of, okay? Grooming them, and then the neighborhood children, and she just gathers all of her victims together. And then she focuses her own issues onto Meg 90% of the time. Susan, it's about 10% of the time. But Meg is the full brunt, really, of that abuse because Meg is pretty and people like her. And the crazy bitch has issues. And she then focuses on Meg and lets the neighborhood children and her children do whatever they want to Meg, and then she does whatever she wants to do with Meg. And if that's a normal state, it's not normal, but if that's a normal state for her and her 3 sons, and then also the batshit crazy neighborhood kids who they have no parental guidance, they are abused by their parents. I'm just going to say his name, Eddie. He is extremely violent, and he has always been violent. Younger girl, Denise, a lot of SA against her, unfortunately, and a lot of actual gaslighting and grooming, where she thinks that SA, not a big deal. It can be SA'd by family members and the crazy bitch's 3 sons and all that stuff, and that's totally fine. So in that, they are also victims. But unlike David, who is involved, but not to the extent of all the other ones because he's watching, they are also victims. The only person that's not a victim is the crazy bitch. But there is the point where what type of person inherently, or, you know, the nature versus nurture, would, even as, you know, a 15-year-old, like Eddie, he's about 14, 15, 16, something like that. He is so messed up through, at a certain point, no fault of his own, and then he gets to a certain point. When is it at fault? Because boy, you need to be in prison for the rest of your life. Crazy bitch needs to be in prison for the rest of your life. And the 3 sons need to be in prison for the rest of your life. And Denise, that's hard. I think she's like 13 or maybe 10 or something. That's her and David. That's really fucking hard. It's hard. Because there is a point where you can't try children as adults because they are in a victim class. And this was something that is spoken about a lot in the real life events. There are literal children involved, and then there's teenagers, and then the adult, the mom is the adult. And it's like, where do you draw the line of you need to be in prison for the rest of your life versus you're in a juvenile delinquent center for 6 years and then you get out and your record is cleaned and no one knows about it because you were, you know, 12 or whatever it is. but you did some horrible fucking shit. It's really, really hard. I can't say with any definitive answer what it should be other than crazy bitch mom, prison for life. You know what? Get the electric chair. I don't care. And the older teenagers, like 16, 17, life in prison. I don't care. When it gets to 12 years old, 13 even, it's just really damn hard. And I think a lot of people can agree that's just almost impossible to kind of figure out one way or the other. We can't go into all of that, so I'm just going to move on. Jack Ketchum in the interview stated that he made the writing first person point of view for a reason, because you are David and you are struggling with everything that's happening. You don't understand, but then you do in some ways, but then like you're being groomed by the crazy bitch, and you have been for a long time. And what happens when you're groomed, but you're at least old enough to know that this isn't okay, but then I'm being threatened and my family's being threatened, and I can't look away. It's a train wreck. And then also this talks about mob mentality. And I want everyone, please, everyone, to remember this saying, because it's really important. If you see or hear something, do or say something. The real life story, there were many, many people that saw and heard something, but they did and said absolutely nothing until Sylvia, the young woman Sylvia, was killed. It could have been ended months ago. It's the same thing in this book. It could have ended months ago if people said or did something. I don't want to completely spoil it, but I do want to say that in the end, David does do something. He does actually, it's kind of scattered throughout the second half of this novel. He does do stuff. He's absolutely terrified, but he does do what a 12-year-old could do. And in some ways, it is for selfish reasons, but the majority of the time, it is about Meg and Susan and saving them. And at the very end, it's not about him anymore. It's about Meg and Susan. And he is caught up in many, many things, and he doesn't know how to get out of that. I understand. He's 12 years old. Like, your brain is not developed at all, and your life and your family's life is on the line, hypothetically. Though, the crazy bitch, I mean, I wouldn't put it completely past her to hurt anyone. And that is why I think there is a huge hesitation with David to say anything or do anything. He has seen what the crazy bitch and her sons are doing to actual children. So he doesn't need to use his imagination. He can use reality, you know, trying to rationalize him not going to the police. Well, they have Meg chained up in a basement, and they are torturing her. They could do it to me, and they could, you know, just like set my house on fire, and it could look like an accident, and they could blame me, or like, you know, the imagination runs wild with children, but also just adults. You're in a fight, flight, fawn, freeze mode. He is in a freeze / fawn mode, more so the fawn, like you're fawning over the predator because you don't want to be killed. I think a lot of people do not realize that there are 4 stages of the flight response. It's flight, fight, freeze, and fawn. And he's at, for most of this, the fawning stage and a little bit of the freeze and the flight stage. But at the very end, he does, and as much as you can for a 12-year-old, fight. And you know, I think it's really interesting that Jack Ketchum ends this book differently than in real life, because I think even he knew that there had to be some type of resolution, because in real life there's jack shit of it. And that's why I think so many people are so damn angry and so fucking upset about not just this book and this story, but when they then look into the real life story, they're like, are you fucking serious? Great. I'm just so fucking happy about the judicial system and humanity. I, like I said, knew about the real life story from years ago because of Bailey Sarian. So this was not as shocking in some way, because I knew how it ended. Well, I knew all the things, and then I knew how it ended. So then in this book, it's not how it ends in real life. Okay, I see why Jack changed the ending ever so slightly. It's a big ending, actually, but I can see why, because even though it's extreme horror, there needs to be something, anything positive, or just ending the bullshit, and it does not happen in real life. So there has to be an ending that is suitable for the reader. I totally understand. I want everyone to remember Sylvia Likens. She took months of abuse from the real life crazy bitch, and the real life crazy bitch had 7 children, and most, if not all, participated in some way or another of this torture. She took the brunt of the abuse and torture, so her younger sister, who was had polio, suffered from polio, so she had trouble walking, did not take the abuse. Then Sylvia, and even Meg and Sylvia, absolutely brave, courageous, strong. Let's remember Sylvia, and let's give major fucking props to Meg as well for all that they did for the younger sister in real life and in the book, because that is actually shadowed. Meg takes the brunt many times, so Susan is not hurt. She is hurt, but it's not as bad as what Meg goes through. And it's the same in real life with Sylvia and her younger sister. Remember that you need to say or do something if you see something suspicious or outright messed up. Because in the book and in real life, it could have ended. It could have ended and no one would have gotten killed or even extremely hurt. They were already being physically hurt, especially, you know, Meg/Sylvia. But if someone said something, it wouldn't have ended like it did. So please, if you see something, then you need to say or do something in reply. And parents, do not trust your children with anyone. Yeah, I said it. That's a hot take, and I don't give a shit. Do not trust your children with neighbors, the soccer coach, the priest, other children, because time and time again, people break that trust so terribly. And it's okay if you are suspicious of people. I would rather be suspicious and not nice to, like, a teacher aide or something like that who's acting a little fishy than have my child being abused in any sort of way. And I think that really shows through with David's mother specifically, where she does not like the crazy bitch next door, but she still lets David hang out with the children. Don't do that. Don't do that either. If you don't like someone, then that's it. That's it. That's the line in the sand. You don't like someone, then you will not interact with them, and you will not let your children have play dates and sleepovers with them. Like, that just blew my damn mind. Don't do that, please. Like, okay. It's just so damn upsetting. So I will leave that as it is. I do recommend this book only for specific, very specific people, but for the majority of people, I would not ethically recommend this novel. Not because it's a bad one, I gave it 5 stars, but because of the content within this book. If you haven't already noticed, it's really, really fucked up. Thank you so much for watching my book review and discussion on The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. If you are interested in the real life events, there are 2 videos linked down below all about that I think handle the story with care. I will see you in the next video. Please do some self-care, reading, writing, whatever it is. I will see you in the next video. Bye.